tree stands there to bless mankind. 'Tis the focus of illumination's flame, gift of God to soul and mind, blazing there in the golden and sacred heart, ever waiting for man to seek its bound, and the love of the ones who now guard its holy light, holding balance in this cosmic hour. At thy side, thy complement divine, lovely goddess of this sacred flame, ever stands and through her purifying power, raises all in the I am made. Now our love ever fasten every earnest heart, to enfold all who serve to set life free, knowing well of thy service that forms a mighty part of the building of the world to be. Blessed flame, illumination's power, to the minds of all who seek thy light, ever send thy love from Titicaca shore, that each one may feel thy might, penetrating the hearts of those who stand for truth, in a world ever changing day by day, ever endeavoring to be steadfast beacons to our youth, symbols of the life, the truth, the way.
Shimmering here upon the glorious lake Titicaca, the morning sun with its wondrous patine of gold causes the lake at times to take on the appearance of solid gold. And as I draw the analogy of gold and the golden flame to holy wisdom, I am reminded of the glorious fact that within every son of God upon the planetary body there is a rising threefold flame holding a golden segment of illumination's power. Some of you in your mathematical studies have noted how that mankind have periodically used letters of the alphabet to symbolize some specific mathematical quality and to denote a specific meaning. Down through the cycles of time, the use of symbols has increased rather than decreased. But going back into the antiquities, we find in the records of Akasha how that the English word S-A-V-I-O-U-R and the word save hold a certain magnificent concept and purpose. But we are now preparing the way to communicate with you concerning the use of the word supplant. For the vision of man as a sower has been already assimilated by mankind, and all men have become sowers, some sowing good fruit and some sowing weeds without purpose. They have learned to plant, but we would this day convey the idea of how to supplant. And in the use of the word supplant, we would invoke the meaning behind the two-letter symbols S and U. We call this the SU concept. And it is very simple and childlike. The S symbolizes save, and the U, us. Therefore, when men supplant the planting of mortality, they are literally invoking from the Godhead the concept of salvation for themselves. Save us, plant. The meaning then becomes clear that through wrong sowing, men have reaped a whirlwind of karmic terror. Now then, through the method of supplanting that, by the power of the light and right sowing, men will reap the paradise of perfection and beauty concept. The idea of the Garden of Paradise has often enamored the mind of man. And so there are many who peruse travel folders of exotic and strange places upon the earth and are very caught up mentally in the concepts of journeying here and there. But man can never escape from themselves. The sum total of all that men are, in reality, abides with them forever. Therefore, there is only one way that men can remake the image of themselves, and that is to supplant all conditions that are unwanted in their world by the beauty of that which God has desired. This is God's desire, and as you have been taught, the meaning of desire embodies the concept of the fatherhood of God, siring or producing in manifestation the law of his being or deity. Man prefers rather to manifest the concepts of self-love, egocentricity, and the thought of being it. It is our desire to bring the human id, or the identity of man, into a place where it identifies with the concept of God, and God becomes it in the human life in toto, in completeness, and in fulfillment of his own purposes. Thus the Christ image is enshrined within the realm of the individual, and the individual becomes the beneficiary of the radiance of the Christ. For I, if I be lifted up, shall draw all men unto me, is a fiat from the living Logos, which invokes in man the concept of love scattered abroad upon the world as the divine seed of itself, producing in the field of the world the great fruit of pure love in action among men. World need today has reached greater and greater towering proportions, and those who have some sense of perspective in a spiritual way as well as a material sense understand world need as very great and increasing. Be it so. The needs of mankind in an outer way will always either be met or mankind will seek to meet them by outer means. For who among you would go without food and drink for a prolonged period of time without seeking to thrust forth your hand and claim that which you seem to feel is your sovereign right? When men feel thusly about their spiritual heritage and their cosmic treasure, you will find that the world will change and that the pursuits of men now I say unhesitatingly, dedicated to outer things, will turn to the within and to the field of the Lord for the fruit of their being and the fruit of striving. In this present time, there is little actually striven for except that which desires to exalt the self, the id, and produce the type of life which mankind have created for themselves in their own mental concepts. We who live and dwell here at Lake Titicaca, in the proximity to the pulsating, glorious, golden flame of divine illumination, say to all mankind, awake before it is too late. Not too late of necessity for the world may go on after a fashion, even under the duress of most destructive activities. It is your personal selves and your children. It is those within the proximity of your aura and those whom you love and have consort with that you must look to assist. It is true that there is a desire in the illumined to assist the children of the entire world, and the sun of the heart with its great love and golden outreach of illumination's flame seeks to save us, all mankind. Do you see? Therefore, precious ones, we understand that feeling that is very great and that embraces what in a figure of speech we may call the biting off of a greater portion of that which you cannot yet chew. Understand then that within the orbit of your personal self and the particular and specific work to which you have dedicated yourself, you can give full assistance and might rather than scatter it upon the field of the entire world with little benefit to any part of life. You can take your energies and marshal them, girding up, as the apostles and early teachers of the church put it, the loins of your mind, so that you may summon great purpose and concentrate that purpose within the domain of what seems at first to be a narrow orbit. Let me then point out that when a number of individuals flood their light into that narrow orbit, there is an increase of the flow of that light out into the world of form. And by the power of concentricity, we are able to concentrate and vibrate and rotate the entire orbit until we can do a great deal more, for example, with 10 individuals' lives than we could with one, and far more than we could with 1 + 1 + 1 until we have 10. For it is always true that there is the possibility of 10 life streams creating an activity that will affect 1 million people, as the circle is rotated in a similar manner to certain atom-smashing machines which mankind are now working with. For cosmic law functions, blessed ones, very similar to outer natural law, and it should, for outer natural law was based upon cosmic law. Therefore, let all understand how that in the coming together of the one-pointedness and one-mindedness of a number of individuals, there is created an activity for God and the ascended masters upon the planetary body which can go forth into the world of form and produce a great deal of spiritual fruit to counteract all negativity. Far more, blessed ones, than one individual could actually produce by going it alone or becoming a solitary climber upon the mountain. However, there will always be a few individuals who elect to follow their own path and the course of their own choice, not recognizing that when they follow the path which we have outlined, they are also following the path of their own choice if they make it their own. Therefore, it is necessary that you shall understand how that out of simplicity the most complex ideas are born, come to fruition, and produce their beauty in the world of the divine as well as the world of outer form. Now, the goddess Meru has it in her mind to render a great assistance to the youth of the world, and she is therefore creating from now until Easter a tangible radiation from Lake Titicaca, which shall flood forth understanding all around the world concerning some of the world turmoil and problems which Master Moria commented on in his recent release. Her purpose is a combined purpose of the mothers of God. Now, at first, this may seem to you as a very strange expression. Some of you have heard it in that church upon earth known as the Catholic Church. You are aware of the fact that Mary has been called the Mother of God. You probably are not aware that the Cosmic Mother dispenses to certain individuals who have taken certain specific initiations and are a part of the feminine ray, a quality which makes them in man the mothers of the God plan in man, for they have fostered it and nourished it. And if you do not mind the simple analogy, it is as though a bird were sitting upon an egg in order to hatch it and warming that egg with the fires of her own body. Do you see, precious ones, how that it is necessary that men shall, so to speak, sit on an idea until it is born? You cannot expect that natural law is going to produce the fruit that you desire simply because you desire it. It is not enough to simply wish. It is not enough to simply begin. A task once appointed to and accepted must be followed out to a satisfactory conclusion. And when that conclusion has come, one must seek to see how that they may also implement corollary tasks, that they may produce the infinite magnification of the divine plan from the cosmic blueprint into the world of form, producing upon earth the kingdom of God that is in reality within man. As I have spoken to you this morning, the goddess Meru has started her first pulsations of that glorious cosmic honor flame, blazing it out into the very hearts of the youth who, it would seem and appear, do not deserve it. We shall see what fruit shall come as a result of her investment of energy in the youth of mankind currently walking upon this planetary body and suffering from time to time what they call, and what you would call, the doldrums, whereas in reality separated and very far from the kingdom of God that is within themselves. They would scoff, blessed ones, and mock, and have little faith, if any, in these ideas that we are propounding this day, and they would not comprehend even one jot or tittle of the reality at the present time. But we shall see what the bathing of their souls in illumination's flame shall produce. We are not here this morning to predict that we shall be successful. We are only here this morning to say that we shall try. Thank you, beloved ones. Won't you please be seated? To try is all that God or man can do. And although this in itself may seem to be quite simple, it is the answer to those who cry, why does God not produce the perfection of himself upon earth? Why does he permit mankind to walk in such degradation and darkness? We who understand thoroughly the cosmic laws involved recognize the comparative ease with which we could answer this question from the summation of knowledge which we possess, but we also recognize that mankind, in their strange sense of sophistication and sense of know-it-all, would not accept the first tenets that we would expound, and therefore would have little foundation upon which to accept the succeeding ones. Therefore, while we are not saying that we will not make the effort to answer them, as is also now self-evident from that which my beloved consort is doing, we will say that unless they change their attitudes and exhibit some willingness to accept the possibility of change in their worlds, there is little hope for any permanent change in those worlds. Therefore, precious ones, can we not say that a lesson can be drawn from this experience, so that those who are the children of the light, so-called, and pursue the spiritual path, will also understand that there is a certain action of mortal recalcitrance in themselves which prevents them from manifesting the wonderful power of the divine example, not only to themselves and to one another, but also to the world at large. Is it not then a very gracious thing if all would seek to dedicate their energies to the totality of becoming so godlike as to chase the darkness of mortal reason from the world and replace it by the golden light of that cosmic comprehension which always possesses the instantaneous grasp of every situation and is never in the dark or without clarity of understanding? You then, precious ones, can be recipients of the power of the gods. You can walk the earth as the winged god Mercury. You can walk the earth with the comprehension and understanding of the light that, with the twinkling of an eye, is able to transform mortal images into divine ones. The moment you see some mortal power acting, or some diabolical force, it is your responsibility, and you cannot dare to ignore it, to immediately call the God power within you into action. What do you think is going to happen to those individuals who continually see these conditions being produced and do nothing about them? Do you not suppose that through misuse, the very choice gift they possess of being able to make the demons tremble will then be taken from them, and they will find themselves trembling rather in the presence of the demons? You must assert your God dominion. You must assert your cosmic power. You must dethrone the power of wrong belief, of unbelief, and of lack of faith, and enthrone by a conscious effort the power of the laws of truth within yourselves. These laws will not enthrone nor support themselves, powerful though they be. They embody the one-pointedness of some specific quality of God, and this one-pointedness does not always establish itself. It requires you acting as the majority of one to establish it within your own force field by bidding it welcome and enthroning it and seeing to it that it is protected and defended against all enemies. You will understand eventually, of course, that the power that is within you is superior to all outer powers and conditions, and will ultimately take dominion in your world to the point where you will ascend in the light and become a part of the Godhead. But wherever there are in the universal cosmos life waves that are moving toward identity, and in their moving possess yet the grossness and ineptness of a life stream that has not yet found itself, you will also find that through the misuse of free will, those individuals will sluggishly and sloth-like perform perforce as a dinosaur or as a early age monster their doings upon the screen of life, and will to the outer eyes appear to be involved in a drama which is purposeless in itself. Now, purpose is the oasis beyond oasis. It is the oasis of the journey's end. It is the time when the purposes are made wholly clear to the consciousness. These purposes are not always clear as the journey proceeds, for the heat of the sun, the sameness of the sand, the smallness of the little oasis is encountered as you pass along the way, and the ruggedness of the camel's humps, as Moria once commented on, all play their part in causing you to not have the perspective that you will have when you reach the journey's end. Therefore, be content to accept those things you cannot change and recognize that there is so much to be enshrined within yourself that you must not accept and continue to feed by your energy the discordant patterns of life which mankind have unwittingly taken unto themselves to the point where they call it life. We call it death, and death it is. for it is a destructive entity which produces in their world darkness and despair. We are producing by the flame of the Christ light, airiness, happiness, buoyancy, joy, truth, and understanding. We are giving you the fruit of our own victory by our own energy and our love, and we trust that you will cherish it and use it to the glory of God and the freedom of mankind. In the name of the goddess Meru, and in the name of the golden flame of Christ's illumination, I, Meru, salute you and the golden Christ man that is within you. Fulfill the plan and win. I thank you.
I am thy son, I love thy heart.
let every one that thirsteth come and drink. Words concerning the commodity of water, everywhere present and needed by all. In the ancient days, when we journeyed across desert wastelands, this precious commodity, as in the present hour, was esteemed and required by those who journeyed. And the struggles of mankind to find this precious commodity, water, was even then a thing that stirred in the hearts of men great passions and great feelings, either of resentment or of hope. Now then, as we apply this, oh, let every one that thirsteth come and drink to the spiritual fountains that stimulate the great courses of the soul. We recognize and cognize that in all ages there is a need, a magnificent hunger, which the soul itself feels, and which men understand not, and yet are aware of. A search, a vital search, an internal barrenness that will be assuaged surely by the release from higher octaves of light of these precious drops of substance to remove the thirst from mankind. I come then this day, bearing with me the memory of old days, which has not been and is not bedimmed within my consciousness. For every ascended master holds and retains, so long as he desires it, a memory of all past events in all lives whatsoever, and the conglomerate whole of life becomes whole by the touch of the Master's hand. Our eternal Father, the mighty presence of life, by his grace, touching the tablets of Mem, causes to surge through our being a comprehension of all that which we have betimes thought precious, and at other times been willing to sell cheaply. I remind all of the great gift of life which is within them, and I compare the search for the promised land, for the search for life in all. Let all understand then that there is within them a desire to find the promised land, to find the fulfillment of the divine intent, and a willingness to leave the comforts of Egypt and to journey out into the barren and waste places of the self, sometimes without the benefit of a leader visible and tangible to their eyes in this day and age. Remember that the children of Israel followed us, and that we were tangible and visible to them. Remember that the children of Israel were a mighty and goodly company, and yet there was rebellion in the camp, and there was an outspeaking against us, and there was the making and framing of the golden calf, and there was the merriment and the mutterings against God, and this in the presence of a company of dedicated individuals. Today, as even in the days of John the Baptist, there is a requirement of the great spiritual law that causes mankind to go out alone into the wilderness of self, and to traverse with travail in many cases in the battle of life in search of the promised land. Yet there are manifestations, and these manifestations are often spiritual. They are often within the mind. They are often within the consciousness, even as some and many of the greatest divine signets were manifest to us, the leaders, even to Aaron and myself, in those days, which we did not reveal even to one another, and have since compared notes. These signets, these manifestations, were the prime source of our God determination to move forward, and the outer manifestations, even of bringing water forth from a rock, did not so impress us as the internal fortitude which we developed through our association with the infinite presence of God. I am the reality and sense of reality that came into manifestation as a flame within ourself, when we felt that the arterial network and the nerve network within our physical form was the bush of flame, and we felt the flame of God coursing through our physical body, through our mind, and through our whole being, and the great meaning of the words, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart." Even then, before being uttered by the Christ, was the immortal law and summation of that law, the whole law and the prophets hanging upon that great cosmic power and instrumentation, even as the scarlet thread which hung down at the command of the harlot Rahab did produce salvation to her when the walls of that ancient city fell. Let me then this day summon from on high the power of the transcendent law, the power of the infinite law, the power of divine comprehension of that law, and ask that you be given a spark of that sacred fire which I once knew and now know eternally. Remember, precious ones, it was but a small fragment of God, a small portion of the sacred fire, but a few drops of the ocean of infinite oneness that came into manifestation in me and inspired me and directed me and sent me forth to save a great people. Today, with the advent of so many avatars, with the great codification of the law, with the great manifestation of the infinite power that has brought forth the life of your own beloved Jesus and others, you have a great cloud of witnesses indeed that call to your attention the law, the love, and the light of the ages. Ho! Let every one that is athirst come and drink, for the water of life is freely given, and yet the price that men pay for the full comprehension of the mighty ocean of divine substance is all for all. Those who give a drop receive a drop as recompense, and those who give 10 drops receive 10 drops as recompense, and those who give the allness of themselves receive the allness of the infinite. And what exchange is this, that men, given but a drop of divine substance and giving it unto the divine, shall receive the ocean of his love? Think ye upon these words. Comprehend the meaning of divine grace that is multiplying and multiplying and supplying and blessing and inspiring now as in days of yore. Men and women who come out from among the people of the world to separation, even as they came then in days of old, unto congregation. For the congregation of the righteous, being assembled across the planetary body today, are the elect who have responded to the summoning and have come out from the multitude into the goodly company of the Lord's hosts. For the Lord has upon this planet today a remnant, a spiritual remnant, a spiritual Israel, a spiritual body of seekers for truth who will not be satisfied by the bitter roots of Mara. They want not the waters of Mara. They want not the destructive activity of Maya. They want not delusion. They search for the promised land and emerge out of world confusion. Theirs is a saga individualized. For no man knoweth save a master of wisdom, and the karmic board, the internal and personal struggles that individuals pass through in their search for the great waters of life. Yet, beloved ones, as I speak to you today, it is to bring to your attention the cosmic possibilities that enable men to pass over the wastelands and desert places within themselves and to come to the full brightness of the land of promise and drink not only of this water, but of the milk and honey of the land of spiritual regeneration. The saga is not always today in the trumpetings of a race of men and the pounding of horses' hooves upon the sand. It is not in the great visible cloud of witness or in the visible pillar of fire, but it is in that which is not seen by the mortal senses, but is seen by faith, and which requires today that those who accept it will enter into the kingdom by faith, and that the faith which they will then summon from their own divine presence will become the sustaining momentum and the rod of power which, as Aaron's rod, they will stretch forth to point the way to the land of promise and hope. Oh, let every one that thirsteth come and drink freely. And yet the price of the allness of God is the allness of man. Let men today take heed. Let them remember the days of the early apostolic groups. Let them remember Ananias and Sapphira, who held back a part of the price. And remember that only in the divine surrender and the sense of surrender to God can the allness of God be conveyed. This is the law, and on this law of love that saith to every man, as you love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, his laws will respond to that love and give to you the allness of himself. For shall the Lord withhold from any man a good thing? Shall he withhold any blessing of himself? Nay, But as in the days of old, in the days of Abram, when the burning and smoking lamp passed before him and separated the dark and the light in his own world, so it came to pass that by illumination's flame he was able to comprehend the meaning of his own destiny. And he was comforted by that flame, and he took to himself the office of patriarch. And God raised him up and said, Behold, my great son Abraham. In later times it came to pass that Abraham, who became the symbol of the eternal Father, was actually, in a spiritual sense, the one who received for a considerable period of time, yea, for a dispensation, the souls of men to their divine comfort. And so it came to pass that the beloved Lazarus himself did enter into the bosom of Abraham and was comforted there. And so it is in Devakan, in the heaven realm, that many of the saints become a repository for the souls of men, receiving them to their circle to administer and to comfort those individuals until they can either be returned to the screen of life for another embodiment or given a dispensation to go up to a higher realm of instruction where they can be ascended in the light after their passing from the screen of mankind into the world of the divine. And there are many steps there. And it is indeed for this reason that Jacob did perceive the ladder going up into heaven. For each rung is a level of consciousness. And all among mankind must understand that though they pillow their head upon a stone, that stone upon which the head of man is pillowed is Christ, the rock, and that upon the Christ self of every man there is the great conveyance, the ladder of life, whereby man may reach from the Christ consciousness to level after level, not only to the first, second, and third heaven, but to heavens above, and to the consciousness of Buddhahood, and to all transcendent states that bring man closer to the Lord his God. And how wonderful it is, how joyous it is, how buoyant it is, how happy is the state of that man who, having overcome mortal delusion, finds himself face to face with those Elysian fields where God dwells, where the breezes of the Holy Ghost blow, where the sun, the golden sun of holy wisdom, sheds a tangible golden oil upon the very skin of man, bringing warmth and comfort and the knowledge of security to the soul that need never go out again. For the Lord God himself shall act as a shield, saying, I am thy shield and exceeding great reward. And it shall come to pass that every tear and all distress shall be wiped from the screen of man's consciousness, and the comfort of God conveyed in the promise of fulfillment. Yet men choose rather to drink, as the children of Israel did, of the bitter waters. They choose to drink of that which seems to them tangible. They seem to feel that outer conditions are an end in themselves, when they are only intended to be a means to an end, a means to a divine end that is in reality a divine beginning, a beginning of life everlasting, a beginning of eternal comfort, a beginning of knowing the reality of the eternal one, a beginning of revelation of the inscrutable faith, a conveyance of immortality. Ho, ho, ho! Let everyone that thirsteth come and drink freely I thank you. With the sweetness and the essence of the sweetness of the joy of God I come, and I come to draw together the strands of the mind of all who are dedicated to the precepts of the great white brotherhood, that they may understand the magnitude of the service they render this day whenever they walk in the footsteps of the ascended masters. The body of God upon earth is composed not only of ascended beings, angelic hosts, and cosmic beings in the great joie de vivre of service, but it also consists of those unascended among mankind who are devoted to the principles as above, so below. I come this day then into your midst to bring you the blessed assurance of the cooperation of the ascended masters, the cooperation of completeness that welds together the body of God as not only an arm of cosmic service, but the whole body of God in action to produce among mankind the necessary comprehension of those laws which, while so eternally manifest, do not shape the destiny of the world as God intended because of the abortions of mankind's free will through misunderstanding and ignorance. Here in Paris, where I am speaking to you today, there is a tremendous lack of appreciation of the very liberty which was once the great song and anthem of the French people and still is on the outer, but has ceased to be on the inner. For they do not recognize, even though they have a love for liberty, the meaning today, as they once did, of the power of liberty, not only for themselves, but for all upon earth. The tendency that has crept in is the tendency toward selfishness, and selfishness is the bane of mankind's existence. It is causative in most of the wars that have occurred upon this planetary body, for it is involved with the acquisition of gold and of substance and of power in the monetary markets to command the world to obey those who possess the required script or the required metal itself, which is the commodity of exchange in the world. We then today, knowing that there is no power but God, and desiring to see a clarification of these conditions, fully recognize that the problem lies in the mind of man that has been thwarted in its search for the truths of God. The truths of God would long ago have swept away from the world mind these hindering concepts which prevent mankind's acceptance of Christ's understanding. The beauty of love seems to be but a prattling thing about which elderly women talk, and mankind today seem to feel that the flexing of the muscles of the body and the manifestation of physical strength and of power and dominance over the fair sex is the entire totality of man's existence, that for which he should seek. Seeing the majority of men today upon this planetary body, especially those in good health, possess these natural attributes, it would seem then that they already have that which they possess, which is all that they will need. And it would seem that only age could rob them of that which they then have. Let me point out the obvious, that nothing could be farther from the truth. For the great deathless solar body which mankind must of needs create by cosmic law is seldom created by any of these, and very few, until they are at least 40 years of age, have little comprehension of what it means to create the deathless solar body. In view of these facts, let me call to the attention of all that often mankind, as well as women, do not start to search truly for the divine path until there is a coming of age which is far beyond 21. Some do not even begin until they are 50 or 60 years of age. And with the present span of man's existence, they have very little years in which to actually produce the work, to remove the thorns of misunderstanding and ignorance, and to provide for the cosmic foundation of Christ's purity, on which the temple for the deathless soul or body can be erected. Now I recognize that there is a certain amount of seeming mystery in that which I am speaking. I also am fully aware that I could state the mystery in rather succinct terms so that all could apparently understand it. But I feel within myself that the records of the ascended masters, the statements of the ascended masters, the already released knowledge of the ascended masters is quite complete on this subject. And while I do not deny that we will see that the faithful shall have greater understanding and comprehension of these matters in time to come, I feel that it is more important that I leave the cloak of mystery, if there be one, around the individual to spur him on to the search for that which he has for so long ignored. There is also an element of karma, which I do not care as to whether or not you feel me guilty of cowardice. I think that I am not guilty of cowardice or rashness, for I recognize full well that discretion is indeed the better part of valor. And what I am referring to here is the karma that can be made even by ascended beings when there is an actual release to chelas upon the planetary body of information of which the chelas are not worthy. This is particularly so when the individuals afterward turn and do not put into practice the law. Then the master is involved in a still greater attention to the student, whereby he must seek to save that which has been lost through no fault of his own. However, inasmuch as my work with the Great White Brotherhood is of a very special nature, and I do occasionally manifest a physical body upon the earth plane, it has been my desire to avoid making some of the karmic ministrations which have been made by others of the ascended masters, for a very special reason which I will not elaborate upon at this time. I will say to you today that there are many mysteries, yea, a multitude of mysteries, which the beloved ascended masters themselves have not expounded to you. And you by no means have all wisdom and all knowledge, but you need a great deal of instruction, a great deal of understanding, not only of that which has not been spoken, but you need a great deal of understanding of that which has been spoken unto you and not yet comprehended or put into practice. Therefore today, having just come from the Academy of the Great White Brotherhood, which is located on the outskirts of Paris, unknown to any, even in the French state, I wish to call to your attention that we are able to assemble at inner levels a number of very advanced souls who are taking very specific training in association with the Brotherhood for re-embodiment upon the planetary body and to assist Saint Germain in the coming next 3 decades. However, I think it very well that this opportunity which is being given to them should also be passed to those of you who are in physical embodiment today. I think it also very well if the young men who are associated with this endeavor would attempt occasionally to attend our academy while their physical form sleeps, that they might receive the benefit of the total dedication which is manifest here to the purposes of the Great White Brotherhood as an august body of world servers, as the august body of world servers, and as the emissaries of the great central sun and the great central sun magnet. My reason for thinking thus is that you have put a great deal of energy and will, no doubt, in the years to come, invest still more in the endeavors of the masters, and we feel that it is only fitting and proper that you should reap the reward of that which you have invested, while you still are able to use the energies of that reward for creating still greater karma of a benign nature toward mankind, which will help to exalt the world plan before all mankind, and help your beloved Saint Germain as he has never been helped before by unascended beings. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to speak to you then for a moment of the tremendous wave of approbation that often occurs when we are giving a dictation unto our chelas and friends. The wave of approbation is so great that we often ourselves are almost fooled by it, and we say to ourselves, oh yes, now we have really struck fire. Now the spark has flashed into the pan, and it is only a few microseconds before the explosion will begin. But then, in a very short time, it is as though a school bell had rung, summoning you to some outer world matter, perhaps the festive board, and your thoughts are quickly engaged in other matters and other things. And as the day progresses, that which we have said and spoken and the energies which we have invested seem often to have returned to us little recompense, which we do not care so much about, but to life itself the recompense is small. I do not wish, however, to belittle the accomplishment which you have made together in this past year, even here, but I do wish to say that it could have been a great deal more if some of the petty matters in which you have been involved from time to time could have been avoided, and there would have been a greater unity of purpose manifest throughout the entire center. We have then in our hearts the full intent of providing a renewed opportunity to you this year, that you may put behind you all that is past and recognize the hand of the future as it comes to you and brings to you the love of all of the brothers of light. Blessed ones who are friends of Saint Germain, continue keeping on, for the need is greater than you know, and the perils are greater than you know, and the shadows and attempts to destroy the keepers of the flame and to break the back of God's endeavors are greater than you know. While eternal vigilance is the price of liberty, it is not too high a price to pay. I thank you. flung forth from the hand of the infinite God, the myriad system of worlds do continue to act out and outpicture the magnificence of God design. Yet, scattered throughout cosmos, there are embryonic worlds from a spiritual standpoint where the life waves are exposing themselves to the master patterns of life in the great cosmic hope that the master patterns of life will come into manifestation upon the planetary body of these planets and also in the hearts of the people who inhabit each of these blessed planets flung forth from the hand of God. Blessed ones, it is clear that the planet Earth upon which you live is one whose destiny is very great, for the master pattern of this planetary body itself is so magnificent that if you could behold it, it would provide an inspiration which you would never forget. I am most grateful this day to be able to tell you that that master pattern and plan of perfection from the heart of God for the planet Earth is the sole reason why the Infinite One has continued to send forth avatars without limit to the planetary body and sons of light. It is not because of the putrid manifestation of disobedience which has occurred upon the planet and because of pity from the heart of God alone that this has come forth. That is to say that God has sent forth his avatars. God has sent forth his sons because he has loved the world, it is true, but the world that God has loved is the world which God has made. It is the world of his divine manifestation, and it is the perfection of immortal spheres which calls forth from his heart and evokes a response there, because only divine love can evoke the response of divine love. Have you thought about it, blessed ones, when you consider the manifestation of human pity, how that individuals themselves are able to respond to pity in the consciousness of others, for they seek for and desire to have others pity them or respond to them and answer their calls when they are experiencing some form of human difficulty. I would like today to have you raise your consciousness out of the degradation of that state of beggary which never was created by the mind of God or by the hand of God, but rather was created by human nonsense and foolishness and all of the degradations of mankind's thought and feeling. You must understand clearly today then how that fire does give birth to fire. And when we are speaking of spiritual fire, we are speaking of the manifestation of that which is of worth. Spiritual fire then, regenerative fire, holy fire, which burns out of the consciousness of mankind the state of degradation and beggary and produces there the beauty of cosmic Christ acceptance of the Father's plan, is the masterful state of consciousness which evokes natural healing and produces perfection in the mind of man, whereby he overcomes all unwanted conditions in his world. Unwanted conditions cannot fail to yield to the mighty power and radiance of the spiritual light when that light is paid allegiance to and is recognized as the source of all mankind's greatness. When individuals feel that there is going to occur in their world a magical response as the result of an answer by some human being, they are losing sight of the magnificence of their own divine holy Christ self and the great answer that comes from God when the appeal is made to the very heart of God. Understand then today that the glory of spiritual accomplishment is always produced because the Son accepts the radiance of the Father as the natural expansion of the Father's light within the Son himself. And this is that which God loved. When men contemplate the phrase, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son," they must recognize that it is the master plan of perfection that evoked this response from the heart of God. It is the love ray that is responding to the love ray. It is the charity of God responding to the charity that he has placed within man, and that is inherent within man, and that is the perfection of the divine plan fulfilled. One of the most unfortunate conditions in the world today is the state of some of the spiritual-minded individuals, and I say this with my tongue in cheek, who seem to feel that God is bent on punishing mankind for all of the various ills which mankind are doing. Blessed ones, mankind are punished enough themselves by their own recognition of their errors, receiving the recompense of that error within themselves, and they are punished enough by the karmic activity which they have originated and sent forth into the world, which is a charge of misqualified energy, which always returns to their world and to their own doorstep for requalification and redemption. Why then should the deity himself seek to further punish them and bow down their head in grief? Gracious ones, all punishment, so called, that is the chastening of God, is for the betterment of mankind and for the upliftment of the spirit in man, that they may understand how the law operates and understand that there is a basic difference between the return of an individual's karmic acts and a specific chastisement which is done in order to produce better fruit, even as a gardener prunes a tree. Recognize then that all limitation that God has actually produced by cosmic edict is the result of the divine law pruning or cutting back or limiting the activity of mankind in order that in their limited state, which then is a far cry from the freedom they once knew, they may feel that limitation and, smarting under the lash of that, may seek emancipation and freedom from it by overcoming and by accepting the great cosmic responsibilities which the Lord of all desires to give to all who will accept it and who will hear his voice and who will understand the purposes of life and the reasons why they are placed upon the planetary body in order to express the grace of Almighty God in action and produce that master plan here below, which is above. Contemplate well the violet transmuting flame in its great application of cosmic mercy. Recognize that simply because it works for you is not enough. It works for all who call upon it, but this is not enough. The violet transmuting flame and its use thereof entails an enormous responsibility on the part of the Chela, who seeks to manifest his own heavenly kingship. The Chela must recognize that because the violet transmuting flame is a flame of mercy, it ought to stimulate within his consciousness a recognition of the quality of mercy to every part of life, and therefore hardness of heart toward other parts of life cannot be tolerated in those who use the violet transmuting flame. If it is there, you will find, precious ones, that sooner or later the violet transmuting flame will break in you that condition of hardness of heart which prevents you from feeling the flow of the mercy flame from God's own heart. You cannot sustain within yourself two focuses, one a focus of transmutation and the other a focus of hardness. If you do, it will break you yourself and bring you down. Therefore recognize that you must use the violet transmuting flame for its God-appointed and God-intended purpose, so that you may free yourselves from all hardness and density, all recalcitrance and darkness, all shadow in your world, and understand the great compassion of life that would raise you up buoyantly, joyously, fervently, and assist you to your ascension in the light. I would like today to call to the attention of the students, one and all, the cosmic law involving the ascension, that the students may understand that the ascension while it is a gift of God, must be understood. And when the students call for their ascension, they must understand what they are calling for. And if they understand what they are calling for, they will recognize the need to live as an ascended being would while here below. And they will not allow petty differences and petty jealousy and petty conditions to interfere with their own freedom in the light. I tell you, precious ones, it is a travesty before God and nature that individuals who claim they are seeking the ascension and their freedom in the light will continue year after year to make the same mistakes and enter into the same spirit of error, calling forth the violet transmuting flame to free themselves from the feeling of error and the feeling of darkness and the feeling of shadow, without understanding and comprehending that the violet transmuting flame is intended to give them their freedom from the condition itself as well as the feeling about the condition. If individuals will understand this, they will understand the correct use of the flame, and as they understand the correct use of the flame, they will find that it will produce in a more efficacious manner the freedom for which they seek. Precious ones of the light, I have not for some time spoken to you through this activity. I have not for some time come forth in this manner, but I am today standing in your midst and here upon the planetary body in order to give a very special assistance to mankind at the portal of this year. There is a great need. This, I am sure you will all acknowledge, for that assistance. But that assistance will be given. Now then, let us ask and evoke from you all who hear and all who understand the need, to call forth and evoke in man the acceptance of that assistance which I am giving. For all assistance cannot produce the perfection it seeks to produce unless there is an acceptance by mankind, either inwardly or outwardly, preferably both. Precious ones, won't you please be seated? I call now to Lord Zadkiel, Holy Amethyst, his divine consort. I call now to beloved Kuan Yin, and I ask your own Saint Germain to step here into this great triangle, the quadrant, which I have caused to manifest. In one corner, we have then Lord Zadkiel. In the other corner, Holy Amethyst. Opposite Holy Amethyst is that blessed being, Kuan Yin, the goddess of mercy. And opposite Lord Zadkiel is that blessed being known as Saint Germain. I am standing now within the center of the quadrant, and I am invoking cosmic circles of light from the very heart of God, all qualified with the beautiful violet transmuting flame, to come out and with concentric rings of mercy engulf the square of mankind's outer world form, with an understanding to utilize the gifts and graces now deposited upon the planetary body from all of the avatars of all ages, from all of the wisdom dispensed in writing and speaking, and from all of the invocations and fiats made by the masters of wisdom for and on behalf of mankind, to come now into a special activity this year of planetary assistance, a focalizing, as it were, to a point where mankind can use more of these vital energies as ingredients in all that they do. Let then violet transmutation occur. Let then freedom occur. Let then mercy be generously sprinkled into the world arena, and let the violet fire of freedom's love take its toll in mankind. And when I say take its toll, I mean just that. I mean that the violet transmuting flame should and must devour by transmutation's ray much of the misqualified substance that is now as a plague and epidemic scattered upon the planetary body, or else there will break out into manifestation in the outer world of form many unwanted and undesirable conditions which we desire to avert. Whether or not we shall be successful will depend upon many things. First of all, it will depend upon your acceptance of our fiat this day. Secondly, it will depend upon mankind's acceptance and use. And thirdly, it will depend upon those imponderables of cosmic law which only the great karmic board are qualified to judge as pertains to this planetary body. Let us then decree this day that God in his rightness will produce by his brightness the freedom of light in action today. Let us decree that the violet flame ray will become in man's consciousness today the violet flame way to freedom. Let us pray that God's will be done and that freedom will make one all the divergent factors of man. Let us decree that God will manifest to the free the completeness of the divine plan. I take my leave of you now, but I leave behind an orb 17 feet in diameter of pulsating violet flame substance, which shall for a period of 17 months continue to radiate out a tremendous power of transmutation directly surrounding the tree that is located in your front driveway. This shall be done as an activity of purification for all who shall come here and for all who dwell here. This shall continue to dissipate this substance, radiating it out in a certain specified decay rate until it is consumed at the end of 17 months. I assure you that this will prove a mighty assistance to you, but it is never a substitute for your own application. I thank you. Out of the depths I have called to thee, and thou hast heard my voice. Supplications rising from mortal lips, lisping thoughts and half-thoughts, ideas of hope and consolation requests come to us from those who are in search of themselves and of the initiatic process which will develop within them the realization and realizations of which Paul spoke this afternoon. But there are other segments of society, even the society of those whom we choose to think of as the company of saints and savants of cosmic grace. These individuals are not satisfied with even divine comfort. They search for the holy truth concerning themselves, that they may know the truth and have the freedom that the truth will bring into manifestation. We do not ignore the requests, lisping, halting, and framed by minds not yet charged with the fullness of the Christ radiance, nor do we ignore the more cogent and learned request from the devotee who has long traveled the path. The senses of values developed by mankind may vary, but our response varies. The needs of the hour are met, and every heart ought to have the calm knowing of infinite grace that trusts in divine simplicity to ennoble the mind and enlighten the heart and show the way that will produce the greatest fruit in each life stream according to the needs of the moment. Much has taken place in this class, much of virtue and of value. The world need is great. The assistance of every devotee is the need of this moment. Regardless of the measure of your service or your capacity to understand, there are things that you can do and services that you can render in the moment of need. When we rally to world need, it is a response to millions. Can you not rally to the assistance of the few who may be beneath the scrutiny of your mortal eyes? Can you not be light showers and way showers right where you are? Just as you trust in us, so do we trust in you. And the concept of that must tonight be communicated to your hearts. It is not enough for divine grace to flow forth to hearts that are unable to translate divine grace into a cogent reality. Understanding must be had by men who possess but little. And if, as you say, it goes over their head, dear hearts, how can they know? They have been literally doused with the vibratory action of human error put forth in the name of religion. Their hungry hearts are not always able to discern just what is acting. And in a sense of fear, they frequently hesitate to leave that which has given them some measure of comfort, desiring to clasp the hand of that which seems to be real, for they have not yet discerned the course of error and how it runs as an unfortunate thread through civilization in its long trek and search for the reality of truth. We do not chastise, but we say to you that there is a need for a tangible contact within the precinct of individuals, right where they are. There is a need for a contact point that individuals can see, and thus did the word go forth through that blessed Christ Jesus. Ye are a city set on a hill that cannot be hid. To you there is now tossed out into the field the ball of cosmic grace with which you must run. Tonight, it is not so much the length of my message that shall count, but the content thereof, which is intended to reveal that he who would bring many sons to captivity desires to use each of you according to your capacity to do. And thus, while I shall not make a summation of all that has been given through this class, I shall bring to your attention that you are not lacking in some element of cosmic grace. All have qualities, both mundane and spiritual, which can be harnessed in the service of the light in this crucial year, when so much depends on the level of emission of light by mankind. The embrace of mankind to the tenets of Christhood is the only power that will deliver the world from the mounting tide of karma, which daily becomes more burdensome to the elementals and cosmic beings as well. For all of us have pledged a share of our energy in the transmutation of mankind's densities. And when it occurs that men fail to fulfill their own responsibility, there is a summoning from far-off worlds of those who have said, in the hour of need I will come. This does not provide your freedom, nor the freedom of mankind. It simply sustains an activity of mercy to a planet. If you knew the weight of divine investment in the earth and its evolutions, if you knew the weight of the avatars and sons of God that have come forth, yea, the weight of the crown of thorns, the weight of that travail which is the forte of the ascended masters for and on behalf of mankind, Mother Mary has caused it to be named the sorrows of God. Men conceive of God as being supremely and infinitely happy. And in divine reality, all this is so. But there is a part of God, a very great part of God, inherent within all life. And it is this inherent part that suffers and travails in man and master, in man and elemental, producing those pains of spiritual birth that will help to bring forth the man-child, the initiator of each life stream. To rule is well, but to rule well is more advantageous. To all of you there is given a portion of cosmic responsibility, not only for the earth but a universe. When one day you know your freedom from this sphere and star or system of worlds, you will find that that responsibility and its power are both increased. Freedom is not license. It is freedom to be creative as God is, to show forth mercy and honor unto him who seeks to cleanse, to purify, to ennoble, and to raise all life into his level of existence. Without purification, without transmutation, no crown would be possible. And thus, as the initiator for mankind, I place the mantle and cape of cosmic responsibility on those shoulders that are in this room who are willing to receive it. I shall not place it upon those who are not, upon the fearful or the unbelieving, but only upon those who, believing in God, even as they believe in me, and as they believe in their own Holy Christ self, will take the proffered chalice of opportunity in their hands, and resigning themselves to the wise master builder, proceed with full confidence to do their best. The eternal Father expects no more, but rewards greatly each effort, each part of man that is dedicated to the purposes of God. May I hold you in a cosmic embrace that you successfully consummate God's goals. Eternal pax vobiscum.